Say, man, it's the Hood CNN with your favorite Hood reporter, the Prime Minister of Hood Education, Dr. Monroe, because I got a PhD in common sense and I'm 5-star general. I want to welcome you back to the Hood CNN. People been asking me to bring it back, so I told them, I say, you know what, I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna bring it back, and we're gonna go from there and see what we come up with. So tonight is the first Hood CNN that I've done in almost 2 years, and what a way to get it started. Because tonight I got somebody on, and we're gonna have a discussion. As you know, as you know, I'm running for school board in the Houston Independent School District, and there's another school board race, and it's right down the street from us in Fort Bend ISD. Um, it's gonna be a hotly contested race. And tonight I have one of the candidates that's running for school board
Power off.
on the show tonight. And I'm gonna interview, we're gonna talk about some things, and we're gonna go from there. I'm gonna introduce you guys to Stephanie Brown, who is actually running for school board in Fort Bend ISD. What's going on, Steph?
Hey there, Monroe. How are you doing?
I'm actually doing great.
Good,
Wanted
good.
to have a sit down with you, and get familiar with your run. Let the people get familiar with your run. Ask you some questions, and let's see if we can get you some votes and some people behind you, so that you can possibly win your race and get in there to be a school board representative. I will say this here because I know people watch. Anybody from that race? What's your race? What's your race number?
I'm running for position number 6.
Anybody in position number 6 can reach out to me if you want to have a sit down with me on the Hood CNN. I'd be glad to interview you too. So don't make it seem like we're just not trying to give you the opportunity. But I'm gonna tell you now, the seat is hot. I know the question to ask. I understand education. I've dealt with Fort Bend ISD before, so you will not be able to skirt around me. That does not work. But if you really want to sit down and have a conversation, the same way that Stephanie is, just hit me in my inbox and let's make something happen. Let's get this going, man. Um, why is it important for you to run for school board position 6 in Fort Bend ISD?
Well, I'll start from the beginning. Okay. I've been volunteering in Fort Bend ISD for over 20 years. And I'll tell you why. There's a reason for the madness. I don't have any kids that are actually going to school right now. They're
Hold
all
on a
adults,
second,
and there's
Steph.
all
Hold on a second, Steph. You're getting a lot
okay.
of feedback. Are you on an iPhone or are you on a computer?
I'm on a computer.
Okay. Do you have your phone open by any chance?
No, I don't, but I'm going to put in something that I'm going to put my earphones in to cut down any
Okay.
kind of disturbance that we might
I,
be
I
able
need I need the
to cut
people to
that
be able to
out.
hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you
Is
perfectly
that
now.
better?
That's a whole lot better.
Okay,
You ready to go?
great.
Okay. Tell the
I'm
people
ready
why
to
you
go.
decided to run for our school board in Fort Bend ISD.
Okay, I've been volunteering in Fort Bend ISD for over 20 years in the Marshall Community Feeder Pattern. But I have not only been working in the Marshall community. I started my volunteerism when my son was only 3 years old, and he was going to a private school at the time, and that's where I really got my start volunteering as a PTO member and just volunteering all over the school. And I will go back to me being a youngster, growing up, losing my mother at the age of 8. But one thing I do remember is that my mother, even at the age of 8, I remembered her volunteering in the schools, being a mother to all of the kids on the block, everybody knowing her when she walked through the school, and making a difference in the lives of students. And I made myself have a good memory to remember everything that I could about my mom. And that was the one thing that stood out. So I made it a point that I wanted to make a difference in children's lives. And so I started doing that from the time that I could when my son was 3. And I just didn't volunteer just on his behalf. I made it a point to just be there for all of the kids and make sure they knew that someone was there for them. So my children have gone through private schools, charter schools, public schools. They even attended Horn Academy in Bel Air. So I was able to see the differences in one school, charter school, private schools, how they operate. And I volunteered in all of them. But I'll tell you about my volunteerism in the Marshall feeder pattern. From Hunters Glen, I remember that school excelling and people were on waiting lists to get in that school because it was doing so well. And my youngest son actually attended Hunters Glen and I mean excelled. Every student in there was doing really well. And from the time he was in that school and my daughter came, there was a big difference. And I ended up actually transferring my daughter to a charter school, a new charter school, because I just saw the difference. When my daughter became a 5th grader, the district decided that they were not going to allow outside of the district to go into middle school in the 6th grade, but all of the other schools were. And a lot of parents, we lost a lot of students during that time because they wanted their children to be able to have this same experience as every other school in the school district. And so we lost a lot of students at that time. Being the parent that I am, I continued to volunteer in the Fort Bend ISD school district, and I sent my daughter to another school for 2 years, but I brought her back. And I'll tell you, I have been volunteering as PTO, working with students, working with parents, working with administration, working with the district. And I was able to see the great things turned into almost nothing. And so I started putting my attention not just into my children, but the children all over the district. So what I did, I went into the middle school where my kids were, and I said, you know what? They deserve to have everything that everybody else is having. So I got in charge of the 8th grade committees, and I made sure that the children had 8th grade dances. They went to Dallas for Six Flags. They experienced everything that any other kid would throughout the district. Now, I will say, Missouri City Middle School was the best kept secret in the district. While everybody else in the district was going, oh, you know what? Why are you sending your kids there? Man, I tell you, the teachers in that feeder pattern from elementary through high school, they were nurturing, they were hardworking, and there was nothing that I wouldn't do to help those kids, those students, those parents, and administration. So I'll just tell you a little bit about my history at Marshall because I know that's all people really know me for, but I've been volunteering all over the place. I helped name the school in 2002 when Marshall became a high school. The reason why Marshall was built, and I'll give you a little bit of history about that. The students in this area was being bused all over the district. I saw Willow Ridge at the time. They were a stellar campus. They had so many great things going for them. And I saw them being bused and dwindling down to nothing because they were actually filling the seats in new communities that were not built yet in order to fill the schools that were over there. And so I watched Willow Ridge being taken down to almost nothing. And when Willow Ridge was threatened to close back in 2011, I and some other community members in the Marshall feeder pattern got together and we helped protest to keep Willow Ridge alive. But what's been going on with Marshall is after they did that, then they turned the tables on our community. So if you will go back in history, every 3 years, Marshall and the community are being threatened in either their middle school, elementary school, or high schools to close or repurpose. But during all of that, that didn't stop us. I've been volunteering as PTO president since 2002. During that time, we have given out scholarships every year. I'm in charge of project graduation where we raise like $35,000 every year. where we give students laptops, televisions, everything they need to have in order to go to college. And in fact, one of the scholarships is named after me. And so I've been doing a lot of things. So since all of that, in 2018, Marshall got on the chopping block again, was not in any plans for the district. And in fact, other members of the school district, you know, they reached out to me and said, you know what, we're sorry, we see what's happening, and we feel for you. But all of my volunteering didn't stop. So I know I'm talking long, but I have not gotten a chance to say all of this. Marshall was built because our students have been bused and transferred, and they were on the corner standing up to go to different schools at 5:30 in the morning because they had been taken away from their home school. And so Marshall was built. And after that, we had a stellar program. But you know what? I know you're going to ask me those questions. So I'll go back to what you asked me, Monroe. What have I been doing? I've been volunteering for over 20 years. I've been there for all of the students in the community. I'm known as Mama Brown in the community because that's what I've tried to be to all of the students in the community, no matter whether they were the lowest performing student or the highest. No matter what the behavior problem or whether they were the sweetest child in the world, they all knew that they could count on me for whatever it is that they needed. Whether it was a listening ear or a drive home from school, and the parents as such, they knew that Stephanie Brown was someone that was going to be there for them no matter what.
All right. Well, let me jump in here because you're a little long-winded. I gotta ask a question. I mean, this is different than a forum because in a regular
Yes,
forum, you don't get but a split second to answer
I
questions.
know, I know,
And
I know.
and of
It's been
course,
difficult.
I'm going to give you a grand opportunity to answer questions, but
Yes.
I want to make it painfully known that it's not like I'm an outsider to Fort Bend ISD. I clearly understand the dynamics of how Fort Bend ISD works. And the whole political process some days in Fort Bend ISD is a joke to me. It's a joke because these people want to put certain people in the races. Now, you're not one of those people that people wanted in the race. You're not one of those people. Whether you know it or not, I'm going to shock you. I'm just telling you, you're not one of those people that people wanted in the race. And how does that make you feel? After volunteering all those years, you were good enough to volunteer, but now that you want to run for political office, all of a sudden you're not good enough to run or you shouldn't run at this moment. How does that make you feel?
Well, you know what, Monroe? Um, I'm not surprised. And for the people that know who I am, they know that I've never done anything because of a title, because I wanted a pat on my back, or even to be recognized. And that's why this whole race is a little difficult for me, because I've never tried to toot my own horn. And so I'm trying to be able to do that now. I was asked by many people, why are you running? And why at this time? And why am I running against certain
But
people?
why not? But why not at this time? Why
And
shouldn't you
that's my
run at this
question.
time?
And you know what I asked those people? I asked them, I want you to go back and just look at school board meetings over the last 2 years, and then come back and talk to me. And that was my answer to them, because I didn't ask for this. I'll tell you how the school board race came to me. I was going to continue to do what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue that no matter what. But I had just come from a meeting trying to explain to the district that they could not separate our elementary kids at Hunters Glen Elementary. They had not sent home a letter to the parents to tell them that they were planning on taking our, I think it was the second graders or third graders, and shifting them off into other schools within the feeder pattern.
So
And
they were going to do this without any notification to the parents?
they had already started the plan to do that. And we had been fighting for early literacy. And that was great because we had been told no. And so we came back and we never took no for an answer. We kept asking because it's already in one of the schools in our district. And we said we need that because I'll just go back and say kudos to the Marshall Advocacy Focus Group. I founded, and we have a fantastic group of parents, community members, students, and alumni and professionals. And we would call in people as needed that was experts at different in different topics and subjects. And thank God for Dr. Rodriguez, because he allowed us to have a seat at the table to tell them the needs of Marshall, because we had been left out of conversations for so many years. And so what
Well,
happened was,
let me jump in. Let me jump in here with you.
okay,
Now, you're running against how many other people?
there are 5 other people, including
Okay.
myself, make 6.
Okay, so 5 other people. Now, one of these people is the current board president, Addie Hollinger. Am I correct?
You're correct.
So while you're fighting for early literacy, was Miss Hollinger on the school board that was telling you no?
Our answers were coming from we heard the answers at the school board meetings, and Dr. Dupree said that it just was not in the budget at the time.
Now, this is the same board president that was on the school board when you were fighting for Title I funding for Marshall High School. Am I correct?
You're correct. You're correct. And if I talk about Title I could talk about that all day. Thank you to those
No,
of
but
you.
the people need to know, and it's no punches thrown at that. You know, bottom line, there's only truth that's going to be told, because if she sits in the seat that you're in, I'm going to ask her the same question. Why
Right.
would you not want to give Title I funding to a school that met the qualifications? So all I'm asking is, you know, was she on the same school board with Dave Rosenthal, Jim Rice, you know, Christian, I forgot her last name, that were in the same agreements that Marshall High School should not have Title I funding?
Yes, this was a long struggle, tireless fight. We talked at every single board meeting, and I know they got tired of us, but somebody got up and spoke about Title I in every single meeting. You came out
So
and you made it national about what was going on with Title I. And what
yeah,
we couldn't figure
we hit the national news with Title I.
right,
So
and we
here's the big question for you, and I think you can answer this one real fast.
mhm,
Through your advocacy, being a part of that group that was assembled,
mhm.
did you achieve the goal of getting Title I funding for Marshall High School?
We achieved the goal. The first what we were told in the beginning was we were going to receive the funding, but we were not going to be designated. Now, the state requires you to be, I think, at 42% to be required to receive Title I funding, but it's up to the district to say what their threshold is. And the district decided that their threshold was 75%, which they said that we did not meet. But we later found out that we were actually at 77%. And you know, it really saddened my heart because everybody in the district was saying Marshall is a low performing school, Marshall is underutilized, Marshall is this, and then Marshall is that. But if we are all of that, then why not give us the funding? Why not designate us? Why are you not agreeing to something that you know we desperately need? I was told by a board member that why are we asking for Title I so much when she was told that the community didn't want it? And my answer to that was, who's the community saying that? Because the community are the people that's been coming to meetings, fighting for it, and showing up and talking about it, and who actually understands the benefits of having Title I designation. So it was
Now
very, very,
let me
very
ask you a
tiring.
question. Let me
Mm-hmm.
ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the district believes they made a mistake and opening Marshall High School. They really didn't need it. And now they just come back every 2 or 3 years to try and figure out a way to close it.
Well, I have heard a board member say that Marshall shouldn't have ever been built. I've heard a board member say that. And I challenge that board member because really, Monroe, a lot of people really don't know our community. They don't know the makeup. And when we did have a stellar program and we had like 700 students in each class, and I actually watched the district take everything away from that school. I watched that because I've been there since the beginning and nobody knows the history like I do. And I have to say that I was told by one of the pillars in the community, Mr. Leotis Montgomery, that you need to start going to those board member meetings and see what's going on. And when I started to attend, my eyes was open to things that I just could not believe. I watched Marshall's engineering program go from kids getting scholarships to Purdue, partnerships with Shell, Schlumberger, Project Row House, being number one in robotics contest, to the program being taken away. And I'll tell you that the engineering instructor at the time didn't even know that they were planning on taking the program away. So when you guys hear me talk about communication is key, I'm not just saying stuff to be saying it. We're talking about programs. We're talking about schools. We're talking about children's lives. And when I say it's all about the kids, there's a reason behind that. Because these decisions that are being made, the parents are not aware. And I want to tell those people out there, those parents in the community care about their kids. They care about the education, but you know what? Like me, before I started attending these board meetings, I felt like the people that we put in that seat were looking out for all of the kids. But that's not the case. That is not the
Okay,
case. And so what
let's
I
expound on let's
okay,
expound on that. Okay.
okay.
Let's expound on that. Because I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of people are not used to interviewing. And I don't do a lot of forums when I run for office because I need people to hear me and I don't have time to answer, 2 or 3 seconds and then the forum is over.
Yes.
So some people don't want you to run because you're an African American woman. And if you did win, you would unseat the first African American school board president, female African American school board president. Does that even matter to you? Do the kids deserve better?
Are you asking if a position of being a title matters to me?
How do you
Are you
feel?
asking
What this is what I'm asking. This is what I'm asking. A lot of people don't want you to run because you would unseat the first African American female school board president. How do you feel about that? Do you even care? Or do the kids deserve better?
The kids deserve to have someone, no matter what title. Titles don't really matter. Because if a person has been in a seat for 6 years, you've had a chance to make a difference. And a title of doesn't make you any better than the next person. I have done a lot of things just as a community member. So a school board position or president or whatever is not going to stop me from doing what it is that I feel in my heart and my passion to do. And I'm not running against anyone. I'm running to make it better for the students all over the district. You know why? Because I've made a difference in the students in my community. And charity begins at home. And I've proven that I could be an advocate for my community. And I've proven that I have strong leadership. And I've proven that people trust in me to go and speak on behalf of the entire community. And I just want to share that knowledge and that connection and be able to utilize that throughout all of the district so we can come together, because there's too much division. And I'll tell you this, what I've noticed in this community of Fort Bend ISD, we don't put the blame on where the blame should be, because we have communities pitting against one another, and it's a divide and conquer mechanism. And so while we're fighting each other, the district is continuing to do what they do. And at the end of the day, somebody's going to lose. And what we need to make sure is it's not our kids. Because at this point, we have what we need. It's the kids that matter. So every decision we make, it should be based on their futures.
All right. Now, if you're not familiar with the structure of the school board over there, there's one name that and I'm talking to the people out there when I say that. There's one name that rings bells. It's the great Jim Rice. A lot of people, no matter who they may be, feel that the African American board members that sit on the school board are nothing more than puppets to Jim Rice. Will you be able to work cohesively with what some people call the godfather of school boards, because he's the president of TASB, Texas Association of School Boards, as well as a school board representative from Fort Bend? Will you be able to help the children while trying to navigate the great Jim Rice?
Well, I know all of the school board members. I have been a part of the Fort Bend Leadership Academy, and so not only that, I have been emailing the school board for years, and I look at everybody the same. It doesn't matter what your title is. To me, it's about what the outcome is for the students in the community. And I will stand up for what's right, even if I have to stand alone. And I respect leaders, I do. But when it comes to these children, we cannot sell them out. And the district is making a lot of money on the backs of our kids. And we've got to remember that it's not about the bids, it's about the kids. And so the answer to your question is, I don't feel inferior to anyone. I will be able to sit at the seat like I have done as a community member. If I could do it as a community member, I could sure do it as a board member.
Well, here's a hot seat question. If Rice gets to bucking, and you know that what you're standing up for is real, and it's for the betterment of the kids, are you gonna go toe to toe with it?
Well, it's a way to do everything, and I will do what I have to do in a respectable manner. And I've already told everyone what my motto is, and I stand on that. It's all about the kids. It's all about the kids. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're going to work together for the betterment of all the kids in the community.
Okay.
And that's my take on that.
Okay.
We're going to work together for the betterment of all the kids.
Let me go to my next question.
Okay.
Let me go to my next question. I see Rita Rawls Thomas, who runs the union over over there in the union hall. I forgot, her union name, but she's over custodians and folks like that, cafeteria workers. I mean, and even though I don't know if she's over it for Fort Bend, but it when she popped in, it made me think of a question. Will you fight as a board member to make sure that these people get a decent, livable wage? You cannot operate a school without a cafeteria worker. You cannot operate a school without a custodian. And they are the least and lowest paid. Will you, as a school board member, make a commitment right now to fight to give those people more money?
You know what? We should be listening to all of the people, the paraprofessionals, whoever are operating in our schools. Because like I'm saying, it's all about the kids, but the kids can't function without all of the people that make up the school. And that includes everybody. If we lose them, we can't function. So we need to allow them to have a seat at the table, not to be afraid to say what it is they need. And we need to give it to them. If it's in the means of the budget and we've got it, we need to do it. And that's all it is to it. Because I know if I was on my job for years and I felt like I was neglected, I'd be looking to go somewhere else. And we don't need to lose
Okay.
any of our people because they've been
Okay.
dedicated and committed.
Well, here's another question. Comes from the special ed community. What do you think that you can bring to the table? Because I've dealt with a lot of special ed assignments from education advocacy in Fort Bend. And to me, some days it's just like they are the forgotten kid. What do you think needs to be done to fix the special ed arena in Fort Bend ISD?
If we're not appeasing to those kids and we're not giving them what they need, if the people that are in there are not doing the job, then we need to go outside and bring in some experts to help us get to where we need to be. If somebody is excelling with the special ed program somewhere else, we don't need to be too proud to say we don't know enough. We need to bring in some people to help us get to where you are. I'm not an expert at special ed, but I had a son that fell in the 504. It was a lot of things I didn't know. It was a lot of things people didn't tell me. It was a lot of things that he was privy to that I didn't find out until I started talking to people that were not in my school. So we need to educate these parents and the people that are in charge of these programs like that to make sure that our students are getting any and everything they need to be top performers. And it doesn't matter what their title is, if they're special ed, if they're under any umbrella, or if they're just general ed students. They need to be able to get top-notch education and be the best student that they could be. Now, we got stuff that we're trying to strive for as far as the profile of a graduate. We got to get past just making words sound good. We've got to put action behind it. And if whatever the profile of a graduate, it sounds good to say, but those schools that are underperforming are under those same guidelines, the profile of a graduate. And we've got to make
Well,
sure
let
that
me say
we're
this.
doing
Let me
that
say
across
this.
the board.
Let me say this, and this is what I believe in my heart because I am running for school board also.
Mm-hmm.
Schools don't underperform. Schools don't underperform. Districts underserve the schools. Therefore,
Exactly.
they create the underperformance.
Exactly.
And they want them to purposely underperform because they have an underlying plot. So if you take out all the smart kids out of Marshall and you leave all the kids that are struggling academically and you leave the children that are special needs, it's gonna underperform. You see what I'm saying? And then,
I see what
you can't
I
pull
see
out.
what you're saying.
Yeah, you
I see what
can't
you're
pull
saying.
all the kids out. Well, now what you do to run the kids off is you pull out all the viable programs that makes children come to that school.
Yes.
Think about all the kids that Marshall lost based on pulling out the engineering program. You see what I'm saying? Look at the
Yes.
type of children that you lost. Then you take the engineering program or you take the program and you put it in another school where they don't even want it. Now, this is a tough question. Based on what I've seen, and this just me. Now, I'm real with it. Black people fighting against black people in Fort Bend ISD. It's a lot of jockeying for position. Do you feel that Fort Bend ISD is a segregated school district? Let me make you understand that.
Okay.
The reason I say that because the kids at Willow Ridge and Marshall, they kind of on their own. The community got every time you look up, they fighting to either keep the school open or keep a program or keep decent teachers. Now the other schools, the Elkins and all that, they got everything they want. They ain't wanting for nothing. So do you feel, and if it's a question you don't want to answer, you just say, I don't want to answer that one. But I think the people didn't show up to see you not answer. Do you feel that the Fort Bend Independent School District is a segregated school district?
I think everybody kind of feels that way, Monroe. If you go back to the 2018 um, news, the protests for students and parents that were protesting not to have their kids rezoned, they were on the news and they had their kids out there. And I'm friends with a lot of people across the district. And when they talked to me, you know what I told them? I told them I don't blame you. If I were you, I wouldn't want my kid to come to Marshall if I were you because of what you've seen, what you've been told. And I don't feel like it's fair for them to tell you that we're going to put some programs over there if you send your kids there. And I told the district at that time, why isn't it good enough for the kids who are there? Why do you have to rezone kids into Marshall in order to give them some good programs? And so, you know, again, when I talk about the infighting and that, that is not over.
Well,
Though
hold on,
you still have
because the
parents that feel like
rezoning to me a lot. Let me say this stuff. The
that. Okay.
rezoning to me a lot is not bringing kids into Marshall. The rezoning I've seen in the last 4 to 5 years is some kind of way pulling children out of Marshall and Willow Ridge.
And you know
But
what?
you're pulling kids out of schools that need children.
You're right. And you know what? There's a school, there's a community 2 miles away from Marshall who are now zoned to Elkins. And some of those parents didn't even know that that had happened until it was time for their kid to go to Marshall. And they realized that they were not zoned there anymore. There's been a lot going on, and communication has not been like it should have been. And so when we talk about underutilization, one of the people in my group would tell you it's been by design. And so if it were not for people like that standing up, talking in meetings and saying the truth, everybody in the district probably thinks, oh, poor Marshall or what have you. But I want people to know that everybody in the zone is not working 2 and 3 jobs. Everybody in the district or on that side of town, it's not like they don't care about their families and their kids and their education. What I know as part of being a parent in the Marshall community is I know that it starts at the beginning. And if you want to talk about gaps, the gaps don't start in middle school. They don't start at the high school. They start in elementary. And if they are all
Mm-hmm.
Title I schools, Mr. Monroe, then those kids should be getting everything that they need at the elementary level in order to be successful. And so one of the things that the Marshall Advocacy Focus Group did was advocate for early literacy so all the kids in the feeder pattern could be able to have a great start. So we wouldn't start talking about gaps later on. Because like I
How
told some of the
important is it? How important is it to you that our children be reading on grade level by the 3rd grade? How important is that to you?
It's very important because you know what? I'll tell you something that I learned from someone, and it makes a lot of sense. In pre-K to 3rd grade, you're learning to read. From that time on, you're reading to learn. You should not be sitting up trying to backtrack and figure out the sound of A's or B's or C's.
Say
All
say
of that should be
say that
blank.
again. I like what you just said. Say that again. Say
From
that
pre
again. Lord have
pre
mercy. Say that again.
from pre-K to 3rd grade, you should be learning to read. From that point on, you should be reading to learn. And if we implement that in all of our students and give them the exposure that they need in order to be successful, we won't have to worry about gaps. And you know what? Right now we got gaps, and everybody is talking about the gaps because of what the kids have not been able to do during this pandemic. But think about those kids that had gaps prior to the pandemic. They got gaps on top of gaps. And so when we try to talk about equity, I want to ask people, do you really know what equity is? Because that's a buzzword now. But I want to show you just with my hands what we're dealing with. say for instance, people talk about an equal education. But we can't talk about that until we put equity back in education. So you say, for instance, you got a kid standing on a stairway that's a stair trying to look over a fence, and they're up here. Okay, they can see. But that kid that just hasn't had the foundation that they needed in order to be able to see under that fence, they're like right here. And until you give them what they need in order to even just get to the same playing field, they'll never be equal. They'll always be trying to climb up to be where, but meanwhile, this person is still going up. And so they're never equal. So we've got to start at the beginning. You got to give those kids what they need.
Let me help you with this.
Okay.
Let me help you with this. And I want everybody out there to share this video. Retha, if you still here, because I hear the unions talking about equity. I want everybody here to know one thing. In the United States of America, you cannot create equity in education as long as you have school choice and magnet programs. You cannot do it because magnet programs were designed to circumvent Brown versus the Board of Education, which wanted us to get an equal education. So they created magnet programs. Now, if I'm wrong, let's look at Fort Bend, let's look at HISD, let's look at Compton, let's look at New Orleans, let's look at the country. Most of these high-powered magnet programs are placed in white schools and white communities. Am I right or wrong? Can you hear me?
Monroe? Say that again, please.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Most of the high-powered magnet programs are placed in white schools and white communities. Am I right or wrong?
Well, in Fort Bend ISD, we have a CTE place where they house most of those programs. Like I said, we had a great program in the beginning.
But my thing is, when it comes to magnet, when it comes to school choice, when it comes to funding, the black schools always are begging and pleading for what they need.
Well, yeah, we did do that.
But the white schools seem to have everything that they need. Remember your graph? So as we're fighting to get here, based on the funding models that are in place, they're steadily doing like this here. And all it's doing is this. You can't close the gap.
You can't close it.
And you're not going to close the gap. You can't close the gap. The only way you're going to close the gap, you're going to have to close some schools, and you're going to have to combine these children into the same schools to get it done.
Well, you know what, Monroe? Okay, you know what? I was fortunate to talk to one of the young ladies that's kind of running the equity committee for alumni within Fort Bend ISD, because they saw some of the things that was happening within the district, and they formed an alumni organization to try to tackle and talk about equity. And she reached out to me. And the first thing she told me was, Miss Brown, she said, I graduated from Austin High School. And I was just under the assumption that all the high schools in the district had the same course selection and the same opportunities and dual credits and AP courses across the board, because they all fell under Fort Bend ISD. She said, I really didn't know that that side of the district was not getting what they needed, and they were not getting the same courses. And so when I heard her say that, I realized that if she didn't know that, there's a lot of people that don't. And so when they hear us complaining or talking, they felt like, oh, they're just crying over spilt milk, or what are they complaining about? But we were not. And I know that now the district is saying that they've got course selections that are open up to everybody. But I want you guys to know out there in the district what happened with the Marshall Advocacy Focus Group. And a lot of you are saying, you know, whether I'm going to be able to help people across the district. And I just want you to know that at the time that I did what I did back in 2018 was kind of like the last straw. It was sort of like, you know what? People think that we don't care about what's going on in our community, and that's not true. But this is the last time they're going to threaten to close our schools without us saying something. And you know what? I have to say this. I was at a board meeting and I wasn't on the agenda to speak. And lo and behold, I was sitting out in the waiting area, and I heard this lady named Tammy Marino get up and speak. And all of a sudden I heard her say Marshall and I heard her say Willeridge. And I was like very, very despondent that day. But I woke up and I said, who is this lady that's talking about schools that she has nothing to do with? And she challenged the district and said, you guys are failing these schools. And I said, I got to know who this person is. And when we formed Marshall Advocacy Focus Group, she was one of the people in our group because we knew that she knew exactly what was going on in the community, and she didn't have a problem standing up and all the things that you just mentioned, Monroe. I want the people to know that the reason why I paid so much attention to what was going on in my community, and I don't know if I said this before, but before I could go out and advocate for anybody else, charity begins at home. Everybody in the district knew that we were being targeted. Everybody in the district knew that we were not being taken care of. And so when we formed, and I was allowed to form that group, it wasn't just about me. There were engineers, there were IT people, there were former teachers, there were former principals, there were students, there was alumni, there was a collaborative group of people that came together and said, we see something, we're going to say something, and we're going to do something. And from that, we have been able to fight and obtain early literacy. We've been able to get block scheduling now that's being implemented throughout the school district, and it was great for the pandemic. We've been able to get sign language, not just at Marshall, but at Willeridge. We've been able to get end of course exams for the students that might be struggling. We're able to get interventionalists. Now, Title I, we obtained Title I, but I want to make sure that we're just not saying we got Title I, but Title I is actually being done the right way. And I know that the principal is working on some things and doing some great things, but the district, we've got to hold accountable to make sure that the data is in there, that they're doing the right things, and that we're getting the funding that we're supposed to get, because the free and reduced lunch is no joke. When I attended the Fort Bend Leadership Academy, I learned a lot about how those monies are coming into the district, and they're able to do a lot of things with Title I funding or with funds based on free and reduced lunch. And if 75 to 75% of those students in my community qualify for that, I shouldn't have to remind board members that y'all left us out for the meals that you're getting ready to distribute. I shouldn't have to say anything about why does every campus have an IT person on their campus except for Marshall and Willeridge. I'm one of those people that I'm going to hold my hand up and say, hey, why you forgot about us? And you know what I want you to know as Fort Bend ISD? I will be that way for any and every community. I've proven that with mine, and I'm just a community member. But as Fort Bend ISD trustee, I could take it to a whole nother level. And I've spoken with people in the Hispanic community that ask, will you allow us to have a seat at the table? And you know what? They should already have a seat at the table, because nobody can tell you what's best for their community except for them.
I think that what we should do as trustees, it doesn't need to necessarily be a seat at the table. I think we help them create their own tables. They help them create their own tables. And now they tables can connect to our tables. You see what I'm saying? They don't need to seat at the table because Latino issues are different than black issues, which are different than white issues, which are different than Somalian issues, which are different than Asian issues. So everybody needs their own table. And you
Exactly.
connect with the board members, and now we all work as one team. No, we don't need no seat at no table. Everything I do, I create my own table. And in order to get Title I funding for Marshall High School, I didn't give a damn what nobody said. I created my own table. I went viral. They had no choice but to listen to y'all. You see what I'm saying? So no, let them help them create their own table. Now I'm gonna ask you one last question, and because a lot of people
Oh,
want to
you
know
said
this.
one last one? One last one? I
Well,
was just
now
getting getting
we
good.
can go a little bit longer now. What we don't want to do is we gonna bring you back. We definitely gonna bring you back before the election.
Okay.
Will you commit to being the best trustee that you can be and not use the trustee position as a stepping stone to something else politically?
You know what, Monroe? I'm glad you asked me that because I am not a politician. The only thing I've done over the last 20 plus years is be there for the kids. I'm not looking to be anybody other than the person that I already am. Election, position, or no position, I'm going to continue to be there for those students no matter what. And no, I'm not using this as a stepping stone. I had no aspiration to even be doing what I'm doing now. But I was awakened at 3:00 in the morning after being told no about something that I know the students needed. And I was in tears. And I said, God, what is it that you want me to do? And school board came across my mind. And I said, no, 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 no. But you know what? I'm doing it for him and not for them. And so I know that if I'm led to be in that position and it is for me, it's going to be for me. And I'm going to put 100% of all that I have, just like I have for my community. And I've proven that. I have receipts. And I don't toot my horn because I don't look for anything or a pat on the back or anything. But in this situation, I'm learning you have to tell people what you are, what you stand for, and what you've done. And if you want to know anybody who's been committed to students, and I just didn't start doing this because I decided to run. I didn't just start doing this 2 months ago when I decided I wanted to run. I didn't just start saying I've been advocating for Title I just because I just started to run, or the underserved students. And I want to say this to the people that are still asking, will I be committed to other parts of the district? And I don't know if this is a good example, but I wouldn't expect a mayor of Sugar Land to go out and try to take care of business happening in Houston or Missouri City or any other parts of the world, as a matter of fact. If he's not taking care of Sugar Land, how can he go out and help anybody else? So, yes, I have been advocating and trying to help my community because my community was in need. And anything that I've ever done for those people that think maybe I walked away from some organizations during the time when everybody was concerned about rezoning and things like that, it was because we had so many other issues that you guys don't even know about that I had to commit 100% to my community in order for us to still be here. Many of y'all don't even know that when most of schools were getting ready to go to 6th grade and have that middle school experience, they kept our 5th graders back in elementary schools and put them in T buildings. Many of you guys don't understand that they missed out on fine arts that they would have been exposed to. And while we may think that that's little, but it means a lot. So we lost some kids just in elementary school because they didn't get allowed to go into middle school and have that experience. And just recently, it was told that our high schools would have to wear uniforms, where no other high schools was going to have to do that. And I put that out there like, have you guys heard about that? And no other schools had heard.
Segregation.
No other schools had heard about that. So when you guys say, Why am I such an advocate for Marshall? You don't even know the beginning of what we have to
Well, let
deal
me
with.
let me let me say this. Let me say this. You don't have to apologize for being an advocate for Marshall. You know why? Because Marshall needed you to advocate. I don't apologize for being an advocate for Jackie A. Senior High School. I apologize for not being able to say I graduated from all of them so I could get out for all of them like I do for Yates. I'm not going to apologize on my run when I say I'm putting black children first. It's a reason why I got to put them first. It's a reason why you were placed in Marshall to do the things that you were doing. God told you to go there because nobody else was doing nothing. And when you went, you ended up getting the army that you needed. So for those that think Stephanie Brown is just about Marshall High School, the hell with you and everything that you believe in. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right. I don't have any kids in school right now. My last child graduated in 2016, which you wouldn't be able to tell because each year I give 100% to those kids, and I'm at meetings 2, 3, 4 times a week. And I thank God for my husband because he knows my passion and he knows that that's in my heart to do. And so when I told them that that's what I wanted to do, run for school board, and there was a lot of times that I said, well, you know what, I'm going to change, but I don't think I want to do that. And my youngest, my daughter came to me and said, Mom, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You told us not to ever quit, and I'm not going to allow you to be a quitter. And you know what? She was right. So no matter how this turns out, I'll win no matter what happens because I'm going to continue to be that person that stands up for students no matter who and where they are. But you know what? In order to help others, I had to help mine first. And you know what? When it comes to rezoning, I just want to say this. I'm hoping that in all of this, when we get all of these programs in place, that there won't be a reason to rezone because we'll get our kids back. I attended a meeting a couple of weeks ago, a school board meeting, and they were asking the question, why are we losing our kids to charter and private schools? And the person that was doing the PASA data information said, most of the people that transfer their kids to charter or private schools live in undesirable schools, or they are zoned to undesirable schools. And you know, I haven't forgotten about that because these undesirable schools reside in Fort Bend ISD. And so I am ashamed that that was even the answer. And if I was a school board person, a member, I would take that personal because we don't want any of our schools to be considered undesirable. And if that's the case, then let's look at what they're doing to get our kids and implement that into our schools so we don't lose our kids. And so I want to say this in that Marshall Advocacy Focus Group, we have industry, we have companies, we have HCC that have met and sat down with us and Dr. Rodriguez, and they're ready to go and implement programs into Marshall High School that will bring those kids back and be competitive with any other school out there. So guess what? There won't be a need to rezone. Why? Because we'll have the programs and the kids that we need to implement those things that kids can leave out of school with things that they could take into the world. And you know what? It's not just about Marshall in our community because when those kids graduate, they're going to live all across the country. So I'm not just helping my community, and I have not just helped my community. I'm helping people that's going to be out there in the future, and that's going to make a difference. And that's going to go to work with not just the kids next door. They're going to go to work with your kids and the kids all over this country to make a better place for everybody. So you know what? I'm asking you to support me in my race. I don't have any hidden agendas. I know we need clean leadership, and there's nothing wrong with change. And I want to be a transformation for you, not only for my community, for all the communities across Fort Bend ISD. So we can stop saying the east side and the west side. We can stop saying the haves and the have-nots. We can stop saying the high performing and the low performing. We could say we are one Fort Bend ISD that we're proud of, and we're implementing programs that all of our people can be proud of, and all of our students, no matter what school they are zoned to, will be proud and be able to obtain a quality education. I'm running
Well,
for
I
Fort
thank
Bend
you for
ISD
taking time out to come and talk to the people who.
position number 6. I'm number 1 on the ballot, y'all. Once you get to number 1, consider yourself done.
I tell you what, well, we appreciate you taking the time out to come in and talk to the people, letting them get to know you. If you're impressed by what you saw, I need you to go out and I need you to vote for Stephanie Brown. I'm going to try to get the rest of the candidates on here one-on-one and possibly do a group forum, a real forum, where they get time to answer these questions and we can go back and forth. But I will tell you that I will be doing my endorsements, and that's why I want to get everybody on. And I'm going to do my endorsements, my personal 5-star general endorsements. And y'all know what it is when I endorse. That means if I live in that area, that's who I'm voting for. If I don't live in that area, I'm telling you to go vote for them. So you make sure you stay locked in, but you always remember, because I'm back. It's the hood CNN.
Monroe, can I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to thank everybody, because Title I was very, very near and dear to our hearts. And there's some people out there that were working behind the scenes that we didn't even know that were working behind the scenes. And I want to thank you personally. You know who you are. And I found out later that Miss Williams was working behind the scenes. I know what you did. And there's some people that I don't even know that was out there rooting for us. People didn't know what Title I was. But I remember when we talked to you about that, and you told us, you said, you know what? That's what you need to work on first. Because those kids need funding, they need resources. And you take that one thing and you go with that. And then we did that. So I want to thank you for that advice. And from that, it brought attention, because a lot of people didn't know what we were going through. And so I just want to personally thank you for bringing that to the attention. I'll just say nationwide, because people know what Title I is now. And I became sort of like the poster child for Title I. It's like when I got up to speak at meetings, it's like, oh Lord, she's getting ready to talk about Title I again. But you can't do anything without resources. And so I didn't mention this, but our teachers.
Well, you don't want to give them everything in one interview, Steph. You want to come back and you want to have something else to talk about.
I want to come back. But you
Yeah,
know what? I want to say, the other night I was muffled, nobody could hear me. So I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to talk and speak and say things that, really, really, really matter to my heart. I speak from passion. I just want everybody to understand that. Thank
Well,
you.
I want people to also know that these forms are jacked up. Most of these forms are jacked up. These people already know who they want to endorse. So they bring you on there with a limited amount of time just so they can say they did it. On this program, we bring you on and we ask the questions. You get the time to answer the questions. The people get to know the candidate. They get to find out if you guys are really intelligent enough to sit in public office. Because some of these people have the minds of grasshoppers and they should not be in public office. But on here, we make sure you have the time. And that's why I don't want you to give it all away, because you will have the opportunity to come back just as well as anybody else that decides they want to reach out to me, because I don't know them. I want them to come on. I want to have the discussion with them. But I mean, if you allow the normal to happen in Fort Bend County, where they say, well, just vote for this person, you're screwing up your own democracy. That's why I loved it was one election that really shook me, and I was laughing when it was over. Was Danita Williams, that sits on the school board. The status quo says she can't do it, and she believed in her heart that she could. and she won. So that's just how it is for everybody. Just get out there, do what you need to do, and it is what it is. I'm gonna reach out to Addie Hollinger, board president, school board representative, see if I can get on the program. I want to get everybody on before I make my endorsements. If not, I'll make my endorsements based on their prior history of working in the school system, on the school board, or based on what they've done in the community. And then I'll put my endorsements out and I let the chips fall where they may. So you guys, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. You know, it's the Hood CNN with your favorite hood reporter, the Prime Minister of Hood Education, Dr. Monroe, because I got a PhD in common sense and I'm a 5-star general. Until next time, y'all.
Bye.